we've tried everything. So when I talk to people and they're like, I want to get my product sold, or I want to get my brand out there, or I want to get my podcast to grow, and like, here's my big idea. I'll be like, trust me, I've tried that. That won't work. Like, and like some way super jaded, but also like I learned what sticks, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll give, we knew we had to, we tried everything, right? We tried getting on mainstream media, which we did a bit. We tried building an army. Like the Yang Gang we created the Yang Gang, but it was new. It was still growing. We tried various events, stunts, you name it. But the only thing that really stuck was podcasts. And we had done a few, and Andrew's great at podcasts because you have this really powerful message. It's long form. And you get to talk about it. And Sam Harris. So we go on Sam Harris. The next thing you know, we've got hundreds of people coming to Andrew Yang events around the country. It wasn't Rogan style. It wasn't thousands, but it was, it was like 80 to 200 people, 300 people showing up to an event. It was cool.
Yeah.
Like we did an event in Chicago and like 300 people showed up. That was bigger than most of the contenders at the time, by the way. Like Kirsten Gillibrand was not getting 300 people in Chicago. She's not getting 300 people in New York. So
how many people were showing up before Harris at your events?
Oh, well, so the pre-Harris was like 20, like, it's like our friends. We threw a New Year's party. That was after Sam Harris. We still did bad events post Sam Harris. Like we weren't that cool. But we've done events that are, like embarrassing. Our first trip to New Hampshire, no one showed up. I think a couple reporters showed up because they had nothing to do. And then Andrew, I'll never forget, Andrew walked up there were two Asian kids, like students at the coffee bar. And he's like, hey, are you here for Andrew Yang? They're like, no. Like, do you want a picture anyway? They're like, okay. So Andrew has this picture of these two random Asian kids thinking they were here for Andrew Yang. Like, was that racist, Andrew? I don't know. But I don't know.
You must be here for me.
Yeah. I was like, I guess it's a fair assumption, like, because they were like kind of just standing there.
Right.
They looked like they were there for us.
I bet those kids now have a great story to tell.
I'm sure, man. They're like, oh my God. I mean, there's so many people have cool stories where they're like, oh, remember that? Like they were like, cause these idiots, we were like the idiots being like, hey, I'm running for president. They're like, who the hell are you? Should I know you? Yeah. But like we knew after Sam Harris that we were going to blow up. Like we knew, we didn't know what that entailed, but I remember Carly saying something like, we always felt like we joked like campaign destiny because we would get exactly what we needed at the exact right time. Like we were broke so many times, and then we'd have a fundraiser, and somehow like we raised 10 grand. It was like
a buzzer beater.
Like, whatever.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah. But Carly said like, I don't know when we're getting on Joe Rogan, but I do know enough. If I know anything about this campaign, we'll get it at exactly the right time. And then we get on Joe Rogan. We go there in February. And dude, like 2 days later, the DNC announces their requirements for the first debate. Requirements. And we had already set up have people donate water because we're like, let's just get like build the army, So if you like this guy, give us $1.
Yeah.
And so the next thing you know, we've got like just Rogan people like, dude, I love this guy. All it takes is $1 to get him on the debate stage.
Right.
So people are donating $1 and getting 10 friends to donate $1. And we built one of the best things we did, we built a progress bar so you could track it live.
I remember.
Yeah. And so next thing you know, we qualify for the debate before like 75% of the field. Like it's like Bernie, Warren, Kamala, Yang. What? And the whole world's like, what the hell? And then that's when we still didn't have a lot of money. We were still kind of broke. We had Joe Rogan money, which was like, we were now raising like 8 to 10 grand a day, which was good, not great for presidential, but we had like, I think we raised $2 million, 2.3 in the second quarter of 2019, which compared to before then, we had raised
a few $100 grand, maybe
the entire year. So, to raise $2 million.
That was a big leap. Yeah.
And then you're like, Dude, so many questions. So when that happens, you're like, what the hell? Because you knew this was coming, right?
Right.
But you're like, is this here to stay? Like, are we going to grow from here? I hope we do. And we need to, but you got to run a business. Do you anticipate that growth to continue? Right. Or are you like, hey, we had our spurt, it's going to drop down to 2K a day.
Right. So let's
might go back to where we were. Yeah. Like, where do I spend this money on?
Yeah.
And if you're looking at like Warren's got a $10 million war chest, like all these guys coming in, we still have a fraction of what we needed to run competitively. So we still had to be nimble and creative. And that's where a lot of the gimmicky, if you will, I'll admit that some of it was gimmicky, but like the fun branding came because we had this long form, dark message about automation that was perfect for podcasts. But the other stuff we did was to make him like the carrot and the stick, like the sizzle or the steak, whatever you want to say. The stuff that tracked people's attentions was memes. And you guys know these well. But
I saw a couple.
$1,000 a month, you know, like the gimmick of like, that's the free money guy, you know, like, so there's this like really dark automation, real policies, real solutions piece. And then there's this, anyone's give me $1,000 a month. And that made him not fit in any mold. And we got to do crazy out of the box marketing ideas around that. So
then post Rogan, you're like, clearly you're like going from Division 3 to at least Division 2 kind of team.
It was, and then go ahead. Sorry.
And then you get on the national debate stage. What was that transition like? Did that require kind of reconfiguring the campaign and the message, or was it just like, hey, just keep going, it's working, just take it to a bigger audience?
So it was so like what we did after Rogan was we probably should have taken a breather. We were exhausted. That's the worst part of the whole. This is one of the reasons this campaign was so hard for us because we had campaigned our ass off in the worst freaking way possible. Right? We're driving to New Hampshire, flying to Iowa. No one's there. No one cares about you. You're completely unknown. You're hustling for $2,800 donations or $2,700 at the time. I think it bumped up in 2019. Like we're just grinding all day, every day, with no resources and no recognition. And all the things you needed to be a successful presidential candidate, we had none for a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have everything and we're beat. We're so tired. But right after we're like, we're not going to not capitalize this. So we went on a tour and we started, if you were like from April to June, we did a ton of rallies, and our first 1,000-person rally was in San Francisco. And I'll never forget, San Francisco Chronicle called it. I put this headline on our wall. It said like Yang rallies thousands in San Francisco. It was like, and then like Vanity Fair came out and said Yang Mentum. Like we had massive rallies.
Like there's a pretty big one in Seattle as well.
So then we did Seattle. We did, that was huge. That was our one, I think actually our biggest one. New York was massive. It was pouring rain and like almost 5,000 people showed up. Pouring rain, like not like, oh, it's drizzling. No, disaster, like absolute god awful. The press was not really covering us. We got some, but it was the first time, the San Francisco Chronicle was one of the first times it was Andrew Yang's name in the headline and not this Democratic candidate. Or, and you had a bunch of, in that time you had Andrew, never heard of Andrew Yang? You will soon. Like that was Washington Post. Like you started getting his name in headlines. But before it was like, this candidate wants to give you $1,000 a month, or this candidate says that, you know, his campaign message, it was a him. It was referring to a candidate, not Andrew. So, but it, I will say this, we were, the first debate, Andrew, I'll say two things. One, we were nothing we could have done would have prepared us for that. Nothing. It's one of those things you have to do, fuck up, and get better at. And that's why a lot of politicians have had like small local debates, so they learn how it works, you know. Presidential is obviously very different, but we had never debated before. It's not a debate. It's Andrew calls it a reality TV show where everybody plays a part, and it's true. You get your 60 seconds. And you have to be combative and in order to win a debate, you have to be a lot of things Andrew Yang is not. You have to be an asshole. You have to steal the limelight. You have to attack people. You have to crush people that you don't even necessarily disagree with. You need to be showman. You need to be salesy. Like all the things Andrew that we love Andrew because he is not. Yeah. That's what a great debater is. And I can tell you so many times how Donald Trump was an excellent debater. And so the first debate, Andrew was really sick. Really, and there's probably rumors of that, but he was pretty sick. So the combination of MSNBC mics, MSNBC in general, being like under the weather, and first time debating, we didn't like light the world on fire. We were just there, you know? Yeah. So we spent a lot of time before Detroit being like, dude, we're getting good at this. Like, okay, we did it round one, fine. We got another shot. Like, let's get you healthy, and then let's figure out how we want to debate. And so then, if you recall the Detroit debate, where we learned like every question you get, we're going to drive a core message, which right now is automation, like wiping out jobs, and we need to do the free dividend. And then, if you recall, he broke the fourth wall at the end. We're like, we're going to we're going to call this out. And then he took off. And then, so the next debate, they winnowed them all down. They went from, it was 20 candidates at the time and 2 nights, and they went down to 10. And we remember doing a mock debate. I'm like, man, like, how are we going to stand out in this game? And so they gave us an opening statement, and we're like, screw it, man. Let's just give money away. We'll be the headline. They'll laugh at us, but then we'll laugh back. And it's true. Everybody, I mean, like a lot of people did not like this idea. A lot of the Yang Gang not like this idea. Like, it was a gimmick. I don't know if you remember this. You probably actually. What were your thoughts when he gave away money in Houston? I'm be interested in that. Yeah, I was not a fan of the idea. I didn't think it was a terrible idea. I was like, well, it's definitely going to get a lot of attention. There's probably going to be a lot of people who, follow him as a result. On the other hand, we already are being kind of positioned as like a not serious campaign. So and this doesn't help that. So, correct. I could see how it was a tough trade-off, but I think it paid off. Like if you run the numbers, so you guys are right. The worst thing that we were worried about was being irrelevant, because they wanted us to fade away. They were not going to cover us. They were going to give us BS questions. So we forced them to talk about us. And Andrew Yang was the number 4th Google search term in the entire world for 2 days. We could not, after Houston, we could not go anywhere without being recognized. The whole world learned about Andrew Yang that night. Because it was a headline in every news outlet was Andrew Yang gave $1,000 or give $1,000 a month to 10 people. You can register here. We broke our website, which was like, we have awesome techies working on this. Like, like the fact, it was just like literally 2.5 million people in 3 seconds. Like it was that many people went to the website. And it broke for like a second and came back. But we got 500,000 email addresses, and then we raised $2 million or $1 million in 24 hours. Like it was by the perfect move. And then we qualified for the next 2 debates. So I think we had to do it. We didn't have to do it, but I think it was the right move. But the real thing is, and Andrew and I talk about this a lot, is like, I talk about this to the staff, is like, what got us here will not get us there, right? Like what the tactics we had to deploy to get us to relevance in this really crowded field, coming from a base of not even 0, I'm going to say negative, like coming from complete nothingness. To get there, we had to do some things that eventually were tougher to brand out of in that crowded field. Gang, gang, 2020. Gang, gang, 2020. Gang, gang, 2020. Gang, gang. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang. Yeah. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang. Yeah. I want 1,000 a month, 1,000 a month. I want 1,000 a month,
attention. Automation gonna sweep the nation unless we get him in. Andrew Yang, 2020 freedom dividend. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, yeah, yeah. First we get this money, then on 420. He gonna give some high fives to some high guys. Decriminalize marijuana so we can smoke if we wanna. Down with the opioid trend, up with the mental health thing, yeah. Math, yo, it's just math. Yo, it's simple math. Yo, can you do math? Yo, yo. Eliminate super PACs, college stars making stacks, student loan forgiveness plan, cops wearing cameras and climate change is real again. Science rules. Teachers bringing home some bread. Medicare for every citizen. Andrew Yang, 2020 freedom dividend. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, yeah, yeah. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, 2020. Yang Gang, yeah.